All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. We got a big day ahead. We had a big week, biggest IPO in history. We got CPI data. We got oil. We got a couple of specific stocks that we don't usually talk about that I'm going to hit today because some pretty wild things happened. We will also talk about the list of stocks we usually talk about, the formerly known as Bitcoin miners, the AI data center stuff. Some big news in that space this week. So 3 big things going on there. And I'm going to hand it over to George. Hold on. I think it's doing it again where you guys can't hear George. Give me 1 second. I don't understand why that keeps happening. Give me 30 seconds. Hold on. Try it now.
Ethereum trash?
There we go. Okay. My apologies, everybody. I think I got it. Ready, set, George.
Now I got to start over. Okay. This week, I'm telling you right now, I think we're entering one of the most important phases for crypto in the year. Most people are asleep. The headlines still don't get it. And by the time the average person understands what's happening with AI, money, and Bitcoin, the move may already be gone. Tonight, we're talking about Bitcoin and where it could be heading, where the smart money is moving, and what could stop the run, and why I think the next 12 to 24 months could change a lot of lives. Everybody laughs at Bitcoin, then they ignore it. Now government, banks, billionaires are quietly trying to figure out how to steal it from you at such a cheap rate. The real question is, are we early, late, or has everybody moved on to AI?
And that is the multi-billion-dollar question. Go ahead.
And then it gets even better, Tom. XRP. Is XRP going to move? Or is it a dead cat? Is this a dead? I guess it wouldn't be a dead. It'd be a dead dog bounce. Or is it just going in the gutter? Has the metrics on XRP changed? And has the metrics on all the altcoins changed? Big news with MicroCard, MasterCard, and Visa. Big news. I don't know if you saw it, Tom.
No, that's going to be a George exclusive. We're going to try and stay a little bit tighter than usual today and get through some of this list. For as hard as we try, we never get through the whole list. But to be fair, there's a massive amount going on right now. It's incredible. So we're gonna hit it. I want to start on, well, I'm on the SPY right now, this chart that you're looking at, and you can see, we pulled back from our highs, but we did catch some support here, and we're now multiple days into heading back in the right direction. Everybody was freaking about this SpaceX thing. All right. It has to do with, for those of you who saw the thumbnail, and let me just take a break and grab Sour Mountain Gaming. Thanks for the super chat. IREN deal every Monday and Friday, war on the weekends. We're going to get to the alleged IREN deal. We'll see what you guys think of that. The market is putting a lot more credence into this one than previous ones, but fool me once, fool me twice. Well, they fooled us a lot more than that on this issue, so I'm in a wait-and-see mode. Obviously, I'm hopeful, but we'll see what happens. Thanks, Sour Mountain Gaming. And while I'm at it, if you guys could smash the like button. We're going for 150 likes, and I don't know why it's not giving the smash the like button.
Got 19 times 22.
There we go. There we go. Do us a favor. Smash it. We're at 22. We're going for 150. Come on. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We can do it. We can do it. All right.
Put my old sign up, Tom. Bitcoin to 100K. Didn't think I'd need this anymore.
Yeah, we left that in the dust, and now, we're looking up at it. We can hardly see it. It's so far up. Having said that, we're going to talk. I have an equal weight of bullish and bearish articles to talk about. Everybody's making their case. Everybody's arguing. There's really people arguing that we've already bottomed. There's people arguing that we're in the bottoming out process. There's people arguing that we're in the middle of crypto winter. There's people arguing we're at the beginning of crypto winter. So there is mass confusion out there. We're going to take a look at the fear and greed index. It is reflecting that. It's back down to those extreme fear spots, and it's been staying there for some time, and that can be its own indicator. So we're going to talk about that too. There's a lot of technical indicators that are giving strong signals, but unfortunately some of them are mixed signals. So I want to go through all that. I see somebody mentioning Keel. We're going to talk about Keel had some news this week. CIFR had some news this week. Hut 8 had some news this week. Talk about Microstrategy. I'm going to talk about Bitmine a little bit. And again, there's going to be two mystery stocks, one of which we've talked about before and one of which I bought today. So I will tell you guys that. To be fair, I already owned a reasonable sized position in this. It got wrecked, and this goes again. So back to what I was talking about. There's a thumbnail for this video, and it's a diamond, and my point on that was that big giant diamond is a big shiny object, and right now retail investors are being fooled, in my opinion, on a daily basis, and this is a trend that's been going on for years, but it's at hyperscale right now, and everyone is paying attention to the shiny object. And if you don't know what I mean by that, look it up. And that's not what's important. We're losing our focus on what is important and what's really going on. And I'm trying to articulate some of this stuff because the voices on the other side are so many. They're so in unison and they're so loud that it becomes almost impossible not to pay attention to those shiny objects, because it's everybody's telling you. People you've seen for years, whether it's YouTubers you've followed for years, whether it's people on TV that are supposed to be experts at this, whether it's analysts putting out, new price targets that, again, are supposed to be experts. This is what they do for a living. I'm going to show you an analyst that I'm just on the other side of, and I'm going to be on record right now because remember, those analysts work for people, and those people may not have the same objective that you and I have, and they don't go to bed at night figuring out, hey, how are we going to help those retail investors make money? That is not their goal. So buyer beware. There's a lot of noise out there, and I fear that a lot of people are missing a lot of the stuff George talked about. I think we're on the cusp of a massive opportunity right now, and there's too many people trying to say the opportunity is over. I watched a panel of 5 people on CNBC all agree the AI trade is over, the chip stocks are overbought, and the money's already rotated out of them. And it was on a morning where they were down, and by the end of that morning, by the end of that day, I think this was yesterday, they were specifically talking about Micron, AMD, SK Hynix, all those types of things. By the end of the day, after all 5 of them had agreed that money's rotated out, you've already missed the trade, it's too late. In fact, you're missing the next trade where money's already rotated into. Micron was up like 12%, and DRAM, which is a basket of all those stocks internationally, was up 13% in one day. The very day they were trying to explain the money's already gone, you've already missed the move. It is my opinion those stocks, and again, we're going to talk about a lot of different stocks. There's a lot of different opportunities, but those stocks, even some of the ones that are up 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000%, there's been a fundamental shift on how this economy works, how technology works, and those companies are not what they were a year ago. They are being permanently repriced, and it's not done. There's a stock that's up 4,000% that I've been saying for 2 weeks. This is still a buy. The only thing is, when I started pounding the table on that, it was up 3,000%. And I said, I'm not going to buy it. I'm buying other things, but it's still a buy. It's only getting started. And now it's up 4,000%. And that stock is SanDisk. So there's plenty more like that. So this is what I'm saying. People can be very convincing. And again, don't listen to me. Go look for yourself, but don't just listen to. I had people calling me today. Should I buy SpaceX? Should I buy SpaceX? People that have never bought a stock in their life. And it's like, SpaceX is its own story. We're going to talk about SpaceX, but that's not how you invest in the market. Wow, everybody's talking about SpaceX. Let me buy it. What do they do? I don't know. They're space. They go to outer space. If you haven't done your due diligence and know exactly, SpaceX is a very complicated company. And I'm actually going to show you an article on that where they actually get it wrong in the article. It's verifiably wrong. And that's an article you're reading, in what we now consider the media, and they still don't get it. So this stuff can be complicated. As a general rule, I stay away from IPOs on the day of the IPO. I don't try to play that game. I'm looking for stocks that are valuable in the long term. And I do think there will be a buying opportunity, by the way, on SpaceX. I don't think it was today, but I think that's going to be one of the most successful companies over the next decade. But that doesn't mean you got to buy it on IPO day, especially if you don't know what it does and if you're not even a person that buys stocks. So don't pay attention to the noise. It's very difficult. What do you think, George? Are we getting drowned in background noise?
I think MasterCard just made the biggest push ever into the crypto infrastructure, but not in buying Bitcoin at Walmart or the way people think. They expanded support for stablecoin settlements. Sorry. That's what I think.
So everybody's trying to get in, and this is my point. So I'm going to go to an article from that kind of ties into what you're talking about, because as everybody's writing off, I talked about the writing off AI. We will talk more about that. AI has not even started. Dan, thanks for the super chat. Is Bitcoin going under 60 again? I think we bottomed. So I don't know what the poll is right now.
It's oil prices.
Okay, so good. We'll do oil prices and then we'll do Bitcoin. Spoiler alert, I don't think we're going under 60. I've said that every single stream. I understand fully.
I do.
George thinks we're going under 60. I think
it's the same as every 4-year cycle, and it's just to piss off people.
So George thinks we got, the 4-year cycle means somewhere October, November, we're going to turn this thing around and start to take off. I think we've bottomed. And you know what? We're both guessing. We're making as best an educated guess as we can, because the market's going to do what it's going to do in the short term. I think the bigger point is not, are we going to go under 60 in the next 30 days? It's, where's Bitcoin going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? If you've changed your mind, if you think, you know what, this is kind of it for Bitcoin. It had its moment, it had its 15 minutes, and it's over, then you should get out. But, if you think that this is a lull and that there's a lot of other stuff sucking up liquidity right now, the rotation definitely is not fixated on cryptocurrency at the moment. But if you wait for that, you're going to miss it. That's how it works. You're either early or you're late. Very few very lucky people are exactly on time. So that becomes the question. It's, what's your thesis for a year, 5 years? 10 years starts to be a bit much to try to project out. But, looking into the future, what do you think? I think two things. I think Bitcoin is we're going to look back one day at Bitcoin 60,000 the way we look back today when Bitcoin was trading for $1 or under $1. It's got, a lot of room to run, but that's not a 1-year price target. That's not a 5-year price target. That's what I think the future holds.
I think the future's so bright you got to wear shades.
And it's only getting better.
I believe we will go under 60K again. And I actually changed my thought process because of you guys on the stream, by the way. That was one of the reasons I sold when I did.
All right. So there you go. Now,
yeah, your conviction was so convicted.
You were convinced by the mob? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I actually was. Because here's the thing, and I know you always say it's right until it's wrong. A marker is right until it's wrong, or what do you say? Trend, or
all these indicators, all of these streaks, they're all right until they're wrong. And that day comes for every one of them.
I will tell you that I am in shock with the oil prices for next month between 80 and 100. 80 to 100 is 52%, 60 to 70 16%, 100 plus is 24%, 60 or lower 8%. I'm in the 60 to 70 range myself.
So here's how fast things can change. On our members only stream Tuesday after the market closed, pessimism was at a point where we had one category, $80 or less. 0% of the people picked that. So now we've got some new news. The first thing is, I'm going to go and just take a look and show you. We're staring at $84 oil all of a sudden. So the concept that 0% of the people think it's going under 80 today seems a lot different than it did, if I pull the 5-day up, we were over 90 when we were asking that question. So, and things seemed like they were maybe getting worse. Now things seem like they're maybe getting better. And I say maybe because we've been down this road. If I had a dollar, or if I had $1 million for every time, the government said we've got to deal with Iran, I'd be a multimillionaire. So this is not the first time we've heard this. This does feel a little more convincing, but I will not be convinced. I do not think there's going to be a deal. Let me put it to you that way. I don't think, they're talking about a deal maybe over the weekend. If not, then early next week. If I had to put money on it, and I don't recommend that you do, we do not endorse gambling, but predictions we believe in. If I had to put money on it, I would say we're not going to get a deal. Why is this time different than the last 10 times? So, but I don't think that's the most important thing in pricing oil. There's another thing that's going on as we speak that has changed the oil equation fundamentally. And so I do believe, I have been saying, and I remain extremely confident, oil is going to be under $80 by the end of the year, and I think it's going to be significantly under $80. And maybe there's a few people now getting onto that page. When I asked this last Friday, nobody agreed with that. When we asked it on Tuesday, nobody agreed with that. I see some people getting a little more optimistic right now, which is nice to see. It's still the minority, and I think proportionally, that's appropriate. A lot of people have a wait and see attitude. They'll believe it when they see it. But part of you has to say, look, I'm looking at it. It's $84 right now. Reports of oil at 150. Right? That was my challenge weeks and weeks ago. Goldman Sachs came out and said, end of the year price target for oil is $150. So my point is, this is the shiny object. This is noise. Do you think the culmination of what is regarded as the world's best trading desk at Goldman Sachs, do you think they really thought oil was going to be at $150 at the end of the year? But somehow, me with radically less information and resources than them, I said I think it was going to be under 80. I really think there's a 50-50 chance it'll be under 60. But I'll say under 80. That's about half what Goldman Sachs was saying. So now it's only a few weeks later, Goldman Sachs came out today and revised and said, nope, we don't think that anymore. Oil's not going to be $150. So now my challenge is void because guess what? For as much as they were screaming it from the mountaintops, they've retracted that now quietly and said, no, we don't think that's going to happen. So this is what I'm saying. You got to do your due diligence. You got to know if you're going to invest in stuff and understand what's going on, you have to have your own filter that gets you to what you believe is the best. Nobody knows the future. What's the most likely cases scenarios? What's, what makes sense? What passes the reasonableness test? What passes the common sense test? These are what I try to ask myself. These aren't high level concepts. Is this common sense? Yes or no? Is this reasonable? Yes or no? I mean, if it's no, then it's over, right? Discussion over. If it's yes, then you got to keep going and dig deeper, et cetera, until you can come up with an investment, decision. So oil prices next month, $80 to $100 has 48%. So most of you are in that. I think that's very reasonable for about half of the people to think oil's going to be in the range it's been in for months. And if we go look at oil, this is the range it's been in. Right? We touched 80 one time. We're heading towards it right now. Here's 100. The majority of the time, we've been between 80 and 100. We've actually been above that. We panicked a couple of times and got up to 115, which is why I'm saying these were massive panic days, and we got to 115. The concept of sustained oil at 150, you got to understand the global economics of things. And I know there's people right now thinking I'm an idiot, and that's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. So if you think oil is...
You think somebody else welcome to Talkin besides me is thinking that of you, Tom?
I guarantee there's some other people out there thinking this guy's a dummy. But you know what? I applaud you for using your own brain. And so if you don't listen to everybody else the same way, you don't just take what I say. So Frederick, member for 16 months. Thank you very much, Frederick, for being a member. Said, without the Iran tariff debacle, where do you think we would be at in terms of our stocks? Multiple rate cuts. Ships take time to move from Hormuz. Everything, you change one major piece of the puzzle. This is the time machine type question. If you go back in time, I don't know what the unintended consequences of all of that are. We're on a certain path. Yeah, I think we would definitely be headed toward rate cuts by now, or already have had rate cuts. Even with the tariff situation, if the Iran situation had not popped up, I think we'd already be having rate cuts. That's my opinion. I will tell you, I think we're going to have a rate cut this year. And now, if you didn't think I was crazy before, now you almost certainly do. So I am pricing into my investing a rate cut for this year. I think there is no chance. I think it is madness to think that they're going to raise rates this year. And I'm not saying you're mad if you believe that, because everybody is saying that they're going to raise rates. It's the biggest talking point out there right now. It's tied with 3 or 4 or 5 as the basically universal, everybody understands the Fed's going to raise rates. Well, guess what? Agree to disagree. I think there's almost no chance of that happening.
Tom, in Polymart right now, a 0.25% decrease end of July, the 29th. $100 gets you $4,000.
Yeah, $100, but that's how much people think. Now, I don't think there's going to be a rate cut. They're going to do nothing at this next meeting. I get it. It's a new Fed chair. It's their first meeting.
But July, have you heard about how they're recasting CPI?
Yes, and Warsh has a very different approach to this whole situation, and we're going to see how it plays out. The market may try to push back a little on him, but I also think there's too many other things going on. I don't think the overriding narrative is let's punish the new Fed chair. I don't think that's going to counterbalance everything else bullish that's going on right now. We're in one of the historic bull runs in the history of the stock market. You can be frustrated that your groceries are too expensive, and you're going to be right. You can be frustrated that gas is too much money, and you're going to be right. All those things can be true at the same time. While most of us struggle to live paycheck to paycheck, the reality is the S&P 500, the big companies, and there's a consolidation, the biggest consolidation in the history of the S&P 500. The top companies are minting money, and their forward PEs are still below average. So when you hear bubble, 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 and I said that many times because if you think that rate hikes is a buzz phrase out there, AI bubble is like the talking point of 2026. I'll add to that the word agentic. You're going to hear that. You're going to be so sick of hearing the word agentic. So those are your talking points out there. And that talking point is the reason that there's a greater talking point. All software companies are dead. And I'm going to talk about one in specific that I previously invested in and added to in a big way because people they're looking at the shiny object and they're missing what's important, in my opinion. So I'm going to go through the specifics on that. And I'll tell you, I'm talking about Adobe. They reported earnings. They got beat up 2 days before, or the day before earnings. They got beat up all day the day of earnings. And then they dropped earnings. And in after hours, they crashed and they got beat up again today. So I'm going to show you their chart. I'm going to show you their earnings. We won't spend too much time on it, but I will tell you, I added to my position. And, not financial advice. You guys, if you ask anybody else on earth, it's the Saas apocalypse. And all software companies have no value regardless. And, by the way, a little spoiler alert, Adobe had the highest revenue quarter in the history of their company.
Yeah, scumbags.
In the history of their company, and they crashed to an 8-year low today on their stock price.
That's awesome.
You could buy Adobe today for what you could buy it 8 years ago. It's magnitudes bigger than it was back then. So,
no, but it's gonna. I told you, it's like you said. I might be pissed off with what they did, but you said that's a good sign.
When the consumer's mad that it's costing them more money, that's probably good news for the financials.
There's nothing you can do. There's not another software out there that replaces what Adobe does.
And that's a moat. Adobe has a legitimate moat. They beat on revenue, right? So you can't ask, that's the best you can do there. They beat on income, and they raised their forecast, and their stock got crushed. Now you say, well, you know what? Sometimes stocks run up so much that even on good news, it's a sell the news situation. No, this stock has gotten hammered coming into this earnings. It was already before this earnings. It was at an 8-year low, and it crashed again. So you guys decide. Again, you're going to have conviction on software. I own 5 or 6 software stocks that I have been building out a position on over the last 100 plus days. you're going to have conviction, because they're going to pretend software's dead for quite some time. So some of these, a couple of these, they've already actually given up on. The rest, they're going to cling to as long as they possibly can. I'll give you another one. I own Intuit. It keeps hitting new lows. Intuit's not going to recover, in my opinion. I'm going to very slowly dollar cost average. I think I have a year. I think I have until they report the quarter they just reported next year. So that's a full year from now before the market is going to have to admit, okay, that thing we said was going to happen, that didn't happen. So I know I'm early. I'm okay being early because I'm confident, it's already down 50+%. So I feel like I'm getting it at a good price. And if they want to keep making it a better price, then I'll buy more. Again, not financial advice. You guys, don't go run out and buy Intuit and Adobe because I bought them. But you can add them to your watch list. You can do a deep dive and say, hey, does it make sense that Adobe, after the best quarter they've ever had in the history of their company, and the only thing that's going to be better than that is they just gave guidance that next quarter is going to be even better, that they're crashing? Doesn't make sense to me. So I'm buying the stock. But I know they'll keep punishing it because all the talking points around it are up. Software stock, AI. AI is going to kill that thing. Nobody's going to buy Adobe, by this time next year.
I'm gonna reiterate something I've been saying every week. We got 18 days to go, and I think the switch gets flipped. And the next half of this year, I told you the first 6 months were going to be misery in what the thought process was of every everyday average person. But I think the next 6 months, you're going to see a lot of things change. And I think you're going to see some unbelievable growth in our economy in the United States, at least. I think in the first time ever, I know you guys are going to laugh when I say this, and I don't watch Fox News. I think for the first time ever, we're almost at world peace. And I know that's a crazy one.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, because there's a lot of unrest out there, but it would be nice if a lot of conflicts have been ended. There's a couple of big ones that are still active and in question. It would be phenomenal, if these things could end. I feel everybody, I imagine everybody agrees with that, but I don't know what that day is. But I don't think you're wrong.
Welcome back, by the way.
That
day's. Did you see that, Tom?
No.
He joined back. You don't even notice these things.
Listen, I know I have a hard time. Is that in the chat? Because I have a very hard time following up with the chat. I will admit. George is the one who's good at keeping control of the chat and making sure putting us on the right course.
I'm telling you, there's so much going on. I'm sure the stream's going to go down really slow now because if I start saying,
I got the George button back. Everybody, hit the chat. Drop in the chat if you like the George button.
Yeah, because I'm just telling you, there's so much going on behind the scenes that is so much good for society as a whole that people just don't realize it. There it is. There it is.
Sour Melon Gaming said, if Edmund was here, I wonder what stock he'd be pumping. I don't know. We're going to talk about his stock, though, which is Strategy. They had some news. I don't want to get down. This is where we end up not getting to the things we need to talk to. We don't
keep going.
No, it's okay. The thing is, these things are worth bringing up. They're a part of what's going on in the world. Geopolitics plays into investing in a big way. So we can't ignore them, and it's okay that we bring them up. But we all should understand we're not going to come to a resolution on what the future is as we discuss here because, we don't know. We can be hopeful. We can be pessimistic, and then everything in between. But only time is going to tell us what comes next. So I choose to be optimistic that, things are not going to escalate. But I don't know that. And the realist in me says, as much as I'd like to believe we're going to have a deal, I just don't believe that. So let's do a poll. And by the way, 80 to 100 oil is the outright winner, a majority at 51%. That's the range it's been trading in. I think it makes sense that you guys think that it's just going to keep doing what it's been doing until there's a reason for it to do something else. Quick poll. Let me.
They're building all these crazy things in Georgia. They call them like community centers, like dog parks, and like just like weird stuff. No buildings, just
areas.
Just areas, but they always want lights. That's the reason I know about them.
So, quick poll. Will the U.S. and Iran make a deal in the next week? Right? We've heard, how many, this is the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time that we've heard it's imminent. We've agreed in principle. It's all happening. Everything's great. We got a deal is happening. So what do you guys think? Is the deal coming? So I will tell you, I want a deal to happen. I just don't believe it. So that's just my opinion. You guys tell us what you think.
I think war, what is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Right. See, now I feel that that's just Russia being Russia talking, Alex, to Europe. Because that wouldn't even be a fight, would it? That'd just be a bomb.
What?
If they dropped a nuke, they're not dropping. First
nope,
of all,
nobody.
They're not dropping a nuke on EU.
Again, I can't tell you the future, but I think I can say with a certain incredibly high level of near certainty, Russia's not nuking anybody.
I think that this has all been a stage and everything ends by the end of the month. That's personally what I believe. I think the Ukraine-Russia war ends, and I think the conflict in Iran. It won't. It's never going to end. Like, you know what I mean? Because they're always going to throw bombs at Israel. That's just what they do.
Right, we're 50 years into that phenomenon, but an end would be, here's what needs to end. The holding up of oil, there's two sticking points. The nuclear material and the fact that the oil's trapped in the strait. Those two things need to come to a resolution. Whether or not the fighting or bickering or, bombing happens on and off. There's just, you're right, George, that it hasn't ended in the last 50 or 60 years. I don't know if it's going to end, but those are the things we need to accomplish. And now, trigger warning. I'm about to say the T word and say something that I know a lot of people are going to freak out about. This is where it is important, in my opinion, if you are so politically charged that you view every single decision through, does this support my politics or not? And then you start making financial decisions based on that, you are going to lose money. And by the way, shame on you. We're all grown-ups and we know better. This is our money. Politics are politics. Why are politics in sports? Why are politics in money? Put it where it belongs. So that's all I will say. That's my speech of the day, because it's costing a lot of people their money, real money. Here's the reality. The United States, yes, Donald Trump, there it is. You were trigger warned. Came out and told the world, we've been taking oil out of the strait for quite some time now. And he went beyond that to say, it's been a secret and nobody's known. We wanted to establish an exit route. CENTCOM has declared that the United States has control of the strait. And Trump has said, Iran didn't know we were taking oil out. They know it now because I just told them. But I can tell them because there's nothing they can do about it. So oil, that's why oil's at $84. So while you may be emotional about that, and I hate Donald Trump, so if he said it, it's a lie. That's an obvious lie, and you're dumb for hating Orange Man. I don't love Orange Man, and I don't hate Orange Man. But he's the president of the United States, and what he does impacts geopolitics. That's just how the world works. So whoever's in that office, I don't know who's next. The same thing's going to be true for them. Just like it was true for Joe Biden, just like it was true for Obama, just like it was true for both of the Bushes. That's how it works. So this is what he's doing. It's happening. And the smart money, the real money, knows that because oil is dropping every day. In addition to that, the United States in the last 90 days has added 2 million barrels a day to its production, and it's going to do more than that over the next 6 months. So we're adding oil to the supply. We're freeing up that which was restricted, and this is what's happening to oil. So, if oil's $150, then I'm wrong. But I'm just telling you, act as if Trump's the fool on this issue at your own financial peril. And everyone's going to walk away thinking I'm some kind of Trump fan. I just got through 10 minutes ago saying I don't believe him that there's a deal. Again, does it make common sense? Does it pass the reasonableness test? I don't believe that claim. I'll believe it when I see it. So I don't blindly follow any politician, or that would make me an imbecile. But I gather the facts and I compile them and I make decisions based on what I think is likely. And when I see big money buying into that scenario, then I say, there's something going on here. Alexander saying, Tom, oil, which Trump claims was able to be moved, amounts to 10% of previous traffic. All I can tell you is it's millions and millions and millions of barrels. And the point is the valve was off and now it's on. I have no idea how long it's going to take to get back to 100%. It might take 6 months to get back to 100%. But in the meantime, we've lived without it. And now that portion is going to get added back. The additional oil coming out of the United States, which is massive, is going to get added into that. And oil's already coming down.
Can you imagine if war's not fun, guys. If they're probably going to fill it in with cement. Can you imagine that? There's oil here yesterday. And they fill them in with cement.
Trigger warning. I know this is killing people, but listen, it's real talk. If we can't talk real talk, I'm sorry. And again, this is not I don't care who the president is. Whoever it is, you got to pay attention to geopolitics. A lot of people have an emotional investment in an outcome of this situation versus trying to objectively look at what is the most likely case scenario of the outcome of this situation. That's what matters. What's the more likely case scenario? And I see somebody saying Trump shouldn't have started the war, and that's great. So if you got a time machine, go back and convince him. But as far as investing goes, that's all already done. So that's a conversation for if you want to have a politics chat room and talk about whether or not we should or should not have started the war, it doesn't matter. It happened. Now we got to figure out what's going to happen next.
I do agree with you, but
What?
No, that he shouldn't have started the war, but to understand where they were with the enrichment and all that, very bad. Nuclear bombs are very bad.
I don't want to relitigate whether or not Trump should have started the war. War is bad. We all agree on that. No one's ever going to know. What we do know, what is verified by everyone, is that Iran has 60% enriched uranium. And if you know anything at all about nuclear energy, you will know that it serves 60% enriched uranium would blow up a nuclear power plant. There's only one thing you can do with that. Only one thing. So it's not a gray area. They were pursuing a weapon. They were and by the way, from 60% to 90%, where you have a full grade weapon, is just time. There's no extra mystery process to make it happen. So none of that's even in debate. Like, we debate that. Now, you can say, well, I don't care. We still shouldn't have gone to war. And that's a valid point of view. If you say, listen, just let them have nukes. It's better than war. I can't, that's everybody's personal opinion. But this is where I'm saying, stop looking at the shiny objects. Stop paying attention to things that don't matter or that are all already done. What's happening now? What's most likely to happen next? That's how we make money. By now, we've shadow banned the stream, so might as well go all out now and talk about it. That's from Sour Mountain Gaming. Listen, I gave a trigger warning before I mentioned it, but it's got to be said. We got to make financial decisions based on financial information. Alexander, I don't care about international law. Give me one thing you can do with 60% enriched uranium, because you cannot use it in a nuclear facility. It will blow up. That's the science behind it. So, and again, I don't want
feeling better, guys.
Huh?
I said, Tom's feeling better.
Yeah, I was very sick earlier this week. I had a sinus infection, and I've never had a sinus infection, and all I can tell you is some combination of I'm a baby about it, and it is freaking miserable, because I was not a happy camper this week. So I've already said too much. If you guys think it's okay that Iran has nukes, we know they showed us by shooting them. We know they have mid-range intercontinental ballistic missiles. So if you're okay that Iran has nukes with ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, then that's your absolute right to be okay with that. That is an opinion, and everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. What they're not allowed to is have their own facts. That's my only point. Start from the facts. And then you got to make your own judgments. You got to have your own opinions, but you can't have opinions about facts. Those are different things.
Might as well talk about, what was his name? Kamala, who killed that kid, Metcalf.
No, Syracuse, I know this is not the important part of that story, but as a Syracuse Orangeman fan, we won one we won one basketball tournament. We won the tournament one time. I grew up near Syracuse, right? I rooted for them and
80s?
Watched them lose. No, we had the best team in the 80s. We lost every single time. We lost the finals at the buzzer. We lost. I won't go on about this, but Carmelo Anthony went to Syracuse. He's the one guy that got us to the finish line. His freshman year, he won the national championship, and then he moved on to the NBA. And now this guy went, and Scott obviously was named after him. And unfortunately, that's a tragic situation. And, one of his family members said after the thing that, no, everybody loses on this one, and that's the truth. Everybody loses. It was a horrific thing, and you've got one person dead and the other one, with a life sentence. So none of that ended well for anybody. I just would have preferred it wasn't Carmelo Anthony's name.
That name sounded familiar.
And he never lived up to.
US and Iran make a deal in next week. 26% say yes, 74 say no.
Well, I'm with the crowd on this one. I will fool me once, fool me twice. This is their 10th we got a deal talk, and so I will believe it when I see it. I think you guys are pretty much on the same page. I'm hopeful. I hope we make a deal. I just don't believe it. What do you think, George? Deal or no deal?
I said before the end of the month.
Before the end of the month, you think we're going to get one?
I think it's going to be a double deal. Did you hear me?
Double on both of them.
Yeah.
And
they call it a double deal.
A double deal. End poll. I see a lot of people putting comments trying to rage bait me into continuing this conversation, but I've already said too much off of our lit. We said we were going to stay focused and stay on the list. So we're doing it. We got to go now. We got to talk about what's going on.
Any news on Keel? I'd like to know that too.
Let's do it. Let's go to Keel. This was a glorious setup. I'm going to talk about the news on Keel. I did something. I bought some options. This is the one circumstance where I buy options, and I'm going to tell you guys what I did. But let's talk about what they did first. Okay, I'm going to start with this one. July 5th, Keel Infrastructure announces pricing of upsized $400 million convertible senior note. And then I'm going to skip ahead because on June 6th, June 9th, Keel Infrastructure announces closing of $458 million of convertible senior notes. So this started out as a $350 million thing. It went to $400 million because, as always, as I talked about on the stream, this will be, the demand will exceed the supply, and it will be upsized. They all are. That wasn't a crystal ball. That's just what happens every time. There was also $58 million of options to the people that initiated the notes. Those were exercised, as they are nearly 100% of the time. So by the time this was done, this was $458 million. Now, what happened to the stock? So let's talk about what this is. $458 million at a conversion price of $7.41. So that was about a 25% premium to where the stock was trading. So you're raising money. It's convertible debt. It's at a 25% premium. So what do you think happens to the stock? It crashes. It crashes. I'm going to go through that because that's an easy money play. So, and by the way, this is 1%, maybe 1.25%. So next to no interest, 1.25%. They got covered cap calls to limit the downside to this. They also have a way to get out of all of these are structured so they can actually buy them all back and never convert any of them. But here they've got cap call transactions to limit this to $11.86. So it's not like someday in the future Keel's going to be trading for $100 and they're going to have to sell it for $7.41. They've capped it at $11.86. What do they get out of this? $458 million, the market cap. So it's important. This is what I would just want to tell everybody. When somebody raises money, there's two things that happen. The price of the stock goes down. Okay, you can debate the merits of that. The market cap of the company goes down. You cannot debate the merits of that. You cannot say a company was worth X. It's getting X plus $458 million. So its new value is X minus some amount of money. That's, I don't know, maybe third grade math. So when you see that, one of two things is true. Either it's a company that is raising the money to fund losses, and they've lost money every year. They're going to continue to lose money year. They don't produce cash flow, and they need this for operations. And so, there's another $458 million. They just diluted me again because it's convertible debt, and they're going to piss this money away just like all the rest of the money that they have. Or all this money is going to be built into infrastructure that's going to generate revenue. If you're invested in Keel already, I would assume you have some confidence that management is going to execute the plan that they talked about. The plan that they talked about was raising money, building out data center infrastructure, and making money in the future. This is that plan. This is the execution of that plan. So if they're doing what they said they were going to do, and you think that getting $458 million makes the company worth less than it was before they got $500 million, I don't know what your line of reasoning is. But this is where people get duped. This is the shiny object, because the headlines are all Keel, stock dilutes investors. Keel, that's the hyper focus. But no one's doing the math. Someone's doing the math, and it's the hedge funds, because I'm going to show you what happened. Here's the setup. Here's the info line. This stock went down 18% in 2 days on this news. It bottomed the next day. I bought options at the bottom. It is now, when I made this chart and it's pulled back a little, you can see it was above and below this. This is a 20% price increase. It actually, from the bottom, intraday, and by the way, my things don't expire until August, and I expect it to hit new all-time highs by then, or new local highs. 25%. So I could have sold these for a double already, but I'm waiting and holding. This setup, this little box right here, this happens almost every single time you get a stock dilution. You get this overreaction to the downside, and it's not a, well, let me buy in for the long term because someday that's going to come back. No, boom. It's an immediate, it's the next 5 days, the next 1 month at the worst. I'm going to show you another one because it just happened this week. Here, HUT raised $4 billion. Here's the info line. The stock tanked 19% in 1 day. It's now a week later. The stock's up 21%. It's the same story. I have talked about this how many times on the channel, George, over the last 5 years?
That's your statement.
This is my free money play. It doesn't work 100% of the time. You got to be careful. I'm going to show you an example where it didn't work. But if you do a little bit of due diligence, this is a very high probability play. So again, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do, but I think these are worth looking at. And I think if you back test them, you will see this is what happens when companies raise money, when good companies raise money. And that's a distinction. When decent companies, they don't have to be great companies. They don't have to be legendary companies, but they cannot be companies that have no product, no revenue, no nothing. They're in a hype phase and they're raising money to just pay salaries because they don't even have production yet. We've seen those. That's something different. Right? Hut and Keel are mature companies. They are building data centers. They already have the power source. Some of them are already built, and they are, the other thing is with Keel in specific, so they're borrowing $458 million. They've already got enough money. They've already got the liquidity on their balance sheet to build out what they've been talking about. This is for new deals. This is for the next deal. So they're looking to keep going. Now, unofficially, there is monumental buzz that Keel's about to make a deal. I try to take that with a grain of sand. A couple of deals. That's the word, on the internet. Again, who knows? They'll make it. I'll know when they made a deal, when they do a press release that says we made a deal and here's the terms of the deal and here's the future revenue. But this is raising money at 1.25% interest at a 25% premium to their stock price. And what's the stock price do? Right? They're selling this at $7.40 and the stock price crashes down to $4.80. How does that make sense? Well, it doesn't, because it immediately came right back up. I need a 30-second timeout if you could cover, George.
Okay, I'm going to XRP because you're not going to believe this. What our boys at MasterCard did. MasterCard decided that they needed to do something for payments because of the amount of money that they were charging, so that they did fractional payments to keep it less than like pennies, so that they can be the card that you use for blockchain settlements and stable coins. So what happened was, how the tokens that these AI companies require, well, that you can use your MasterCard to pay for it. It would just be pennies instead of the 3 or 3.5% that they were talking about. It would be less than a tenth of a penny to use it. So I thought that was good. So automatically, when this year came about, they lowered interest. They lowered the discount fee that you have to pay to use your MasterCard by 0.005, I think. But every little bit helps. But personally, I think they're a scam and they just need to go.
You talking about which one?
MasterCard. They just found a way to work themselves in.
We've talked about this on the channel. MasterCard, Visa, American Express. I'm not saying they're going to cease to exist, but I do think over the next 10 years, and it's not a this year story, over the next 10 years, I think stablecoins represent and the on-chain activity, XRP, represent a massive dent in their revenue stream, in my opinion. I don't think it takes it to zero. Right? They extend credit, they charge interest on that, but the transaction fees that they get away with, I think those do go to zero in 10 years. Why would somebody pay Visa a transaction fee when they can pay 1/100th of that to XRP? Or whatever it turns out to be. And here, on that note, America's largest banks are building a new digital currency network to stop a massive deposit drain. Right? We know that Circle and Tether are just growing and growing and growing and growing in market cap. By the way, Circle stock is taking a beatdown because of this. America's largest banks are building a new digital currency network to stop a massive deposit drain. That they are making a stable coin. America's biggest banks are launching tokenized deposits to compete with stable coins, opening a new front in the race to become the dominant form of cash on blockchain networks. So this is JP Morgan, the biggest dog of all of them, Bank of America, Citigroup, and other major lenders. Said Friday they plan to launch a shared tokenized deposit network through the clearinghouse by the first half of 2027. The project would allow bank deposits to move across blockchain infrastructure with round-the-clock settlement, giving traditional bank money some of the same capabilities that have helped stablecoins gain traction. They are coming right at Circle and Tether. And let's be honest, I don't know how many stablecoins there are, but Circle and Tether, which are two of them, make up 99% of the stablecoin universe. Well, now we know SoFi put out their own stablecoin inside of their environment. Now you've got 3 of the 10 biggest banks in the world getting together to create a token across their platforms. So for those of you who think that, crypto's dead, Bitcoin's dead, that's not what the banks think.
They're just pissed. They don't want to use what's already out there. And that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. That they're going to go and make their own coin when it's not a proven coin and they're going to get hacked.
That's going to be a part of their problem. XRP is almost as old as Bitcoin is. This is going to be brand new. So we'll see. Now they've got a lot of, customers. They have a lot of power in that regard, but there's going to be multiple systems that come out of all this. But back to your original point, I don't know where that leaves Visa, MasterCard, American Express. I feel like those are the long-term, not short-term, longer-term losers in this. I'm going to talk about, Doug said, SMCI stock dilution, $7 billion dilution, capital raising plan. I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that because they're a little bit different. And I don't think it presents the same setup as I just talked about, and I'll give you the specific reason why. All right, so just going back to the Bitcoin chart for a minute here and see what's going on.
Do that. Have you seen the clash between Diamond and Armstrong?
I mean, there's a couple of big clashes going on out there. That's one of them. Jamie Dimon really went after Armstrong.
He's a dick.
Well, I don't want to misquote him. It was pretty vicious. He might have called. Let him drop in the comments if you know. I think he called him an idiot or worse.
No, what did he say? I don't think he said he was a fucking liar. He said something like that, though. He's like, he's an asshole or something like that about Armstrong. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, that was pretty harsh.
Right. And the way Armstrong handled it was great.
What was his response to that?
We all know Diamond. He gets a little heated when he talks about things, but we're not changing the way we do business, and we think it's important. I'll tell you what. I don't know about you, but I bounced a check recently in my bank account. Not like bounced a check. There was money. They paid the freaking bill, but they charged me $30-some freaking dollars. And then they do this little mathematical thing. So, I don't pay attention to how much money I have in the bank account. I just use the money. You know what I mean? It's like, when I'm at zero, stop. This is the only thing that I can't understand. How come we have to pay them money when they can't shut you off at zero? Isn't that crazy?
They love that fee. That's their all-time favorite fee. That's free money.
Oh, free. And you realize it's billions of dollars a year. The banks can't go out of business fast enough, as far as I'm concerned.
The fees that bank charges are their biggest profit centers.
Yeah.
ATM
Billions.
fees, just checking account monthly fees, at non-sufficient fund fees. It's billions and billions of dollars. It's incredible.
I think they were told, damn it, that they can't use XRP. Here's what people don't understand. I think there's such a demand for XRP right now. And I know everybody go, oh, it's only $1. Yeah. You don't think they can manipulate it? They freaking, how many freaking shares? At some point in time, though, it will get crazy.
I've been dollar cost averaging into my XRP. I've been dollar cost averaging into Solana and Ethereum. I'm going to show you why right now.
I was okay until you said the last one.
Well, that's the most compelling case of all. Although my conviction in Ethereum long-term is not high, it is due for a run. Let me find... Okay, I took some screenshots, and then we'll go check in real time what's going on now. On June 5th, so a week ago...
Thanks, Ken. At least once, we're going down with the ship together.
This is Bitcoin on the one-day chart. So you see, that was the day we tested 60. We actually we candle-wicked a little bit under, but held on the day. We were at 15.43, if you see right here, on the daily RSI. So I went back to the beginning of Bitcoin. That's the lowest number I could find from day one of Bitcoin until now. Which means on the one-day time frame, this is the most oversold Bitcoin's ever been. That includes every panic flash crash we've ever had. That includes the bottom of every crypto winter. That was the most oversold ever. Now, that's where Bitcoin was at. Here's Ethereum. 13.29 on the daily RSI. So for those of you not familiar with the RSI, a super quick topside summary. This is called the Relative Strength Index, and it basically tries to gauge where a stock is at. Is it overbought? Is it neutral? Is it oversold? So you'll see some lines. They typically have a line, and you can make these whatever you want, but this is the default. 70 is generally considered a stock is overbought. Starting to get overheated at 70. Now, I've said many times inside of our space, with high volatility, high growth stocks, it can go past 70. It can get to 80. I've seen it get to 90. So, 70 isn't necessarily the top. 50 is considered absolutely neutral. 30 or below is considered oversold. Most things bounce off of 30. Every once in a while, they will go below 30. And then they're very oversold. They are due, in general, they're due for a run up. This is at 13.29. So that is not only the lowest that I could find in the history of Ethereum. I could not find any stock on the one day, and I'm sure one is out there somewhere. I could not find any stock on the one-day time frame that's ever been down. It actually I took this picture in the 13s. It got into the 12s on the daily RSI. So this is historically it's never been this oversold. So even if you do not believe that Ethereum is the next big thing, even if you do not believe that Ethereum is going to 10,000, I gotta believe you're gonna get some type of rebound from this level of oversold. So if I go to Ethereum, so you'll see it's not like this is the greatest move in history, but you know, we're up 10%. We have not yet. It looks like we're, let me move this a little so it doesn't get in the way. It looks like we're heading towards a bullish crossover on the MACD. That's not a given, right? This ebbs and flows. This can go up. This looks like we were headed for one, and then it turned around and went back down. So until it's confirmed, it's not real. But there's the potential that we're about to have a bullish crossover on the MACD. We're still only at less than 31 on the daily RSI. So we're up 10% and we're still basically at a total reset. Even if we're in a bearish time frame and this goes up and gets rejected at 50, which is neutral, and then takes the next leg down, you're likely to see some of this action in the middle. Right? This would be a point of resistance if I could draw a straight line. That's somewhere around $2,000. Right? This thing was at $1,500. So I'm adding to this for the sole reason that it's just never been this oversold. I also think, unlike a lot of people, and we'll do that right now, I also think this is the end of the crypto winter. So
right
I know.
now?
I think this is it. Yes, right now. This is the end of the crypto winter. That is my opinion. Again, time will tell. I can only make my best educated guess. I understand the people who think we're going to play out. George talked at the beginning. We're going to play out the 4-year cycle. We always do. If for no other reason, then that's what we do. We're going to do it again. And I can't rule that out. But as I look at everything, to me, this looks like the bottom. But I'm going to go to a couple of articles, one that supports what I'm saying, one that supports what George is saying, and kind of give both sides of this argument. If you could do us a favor and smash the like button, it does help the channel out a lot in real time. We appreciate it. We're going for 150 likes. What are we at, George?
68 was, hang on, let me up it up.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. 74 now. So that's not too
All
bad.
right, 74.
What do you use? Is this Trader View?
Yes.
Trader View.
Trading View.
Trading View. Michael, Trading View. And do you have to go and set up like the different things? So you get the overlays on it.
There's a
and
free
all the lines are things that Tom's drawn though.
If you see lines like this purple line, this white line, all these are me. But these are just indicators. So, you know, you do this and a bunch of indicators pop up and you can pick one and use it. Now, if you have the free version, it limits how much of that you can do. If you pay for levels, so I pay for just an upgraded level, so I get a little bit more. I could buy an even more upgraded level than that, but this does everything that I need it to do. And these are some of the most basic. The RSI and the MACD, I think, are your standard issue indicators. We are also looking at one that people take a look at quite a bit, and I'm going to look at that, which is the 200-week moving indicator. So that's another thing we're going to look at. But these things got historically, so I can go here on Saturday, June 6th. Ethereum was at 12.86 on the daily RSI. So to me, I've never seen anything like it. If this doesn't have a relief rally, I will be very surprised. Now, it's already had a 10% relief rally, but I'm expecting quite a bit more than that because even to me, just from the bottom here, you know, this was some resistance up 13%, but more likely to me, this is like a 30% move. I think if it gets rejected and goes back down to new lows, I think there's a pretty reasonable chance at a 30% run here. We'll see. Who knows? So I want to talk about somebody had mentioned earlier. Let me find the comment if I can. If I can't, then I'll just.
Think about it. As bad as investors we are, at least we're not Tom Lee.
Yeah, he's out. He's out $9 billion on paper.
Yeah, tell that to the effers that gave him the money if they think it's on paper.
Well, if it works out in the end, that's actually how I'm playing Ethereum.
Oh, you're saying, look, if
here. Oh, that's the wrong one.
That's not much confidence, Tom.
Bitmine bought the dip, making its biggest ETH purchase in 2026.
Well,
I like this company.
They're not going to lose $9 billion. They're just not. It's not going to happen, guys. It's not. You know that they're talk to their friends and they're like, "Hey, help me out here," and they're push it and pump it on retail. You know they will.
Think about it this way. If you started this company a year ago, their goal, they had 0 Ethereum. They are an Ethereum treasury company. This is a relatively new company. Their goal was to get 5% of the world's supply of Ethereum. That's going to be about 6 million Ethereum. They have over 5 million right now. So if you sat here today and said, I've got to buy 6 million Ethereum, what direction, as I dollar cost average into Ethereum for the next year, because it's probably going to take me at least a year to do that, what direction do I hope Ethereum is going to go in?
Down.
You hope it's going to go down as much as it possibly can go down. This is the absolute best case. Good, George.
Down. Sorry.
Right. I mean, this is the absolute dream scenario for them. Now, it's the nightmare scenario if this is on its way to 0. So if you think Ethereum's done, then it's not a dream scenario. But even if you think we're in the middle of the crypto winter and there's more pain to come, and Ethereum will have its run in the next bull cycle, then this is the dream scenario for them. Now, he has some pretty, I'm going to call them unrealistic. I think they're nuts. He's talking about Ethereum to $250,000. Now, he's not talking about in the next 5 or 10 years. He's saying someday over the rainbow. I don't even think that conversation is worth having. But is Ethereum $4,000 a conversation worth having? It's been there multiple times. Is Ethereum $10,000 a reasonable price target if you've got a 5-year time frame in mind? If this gets to Ethereum 5,000, instead of losing $9 billion, he's going to make $100 billion. That's the math for him. So I do think we're bottoming out. And I think his company, in addition to that, he owns Ethereum and gets to stake Ethereum. So he gets to make money. Unlike Microstrategy, there's 2 big differences between Bitmine and Microstrategy. Those are the 2 real treasury companies for cryptocurrency in this world. There are many past that, but they're so much smaller.
They have enough, cheddar to stay in business. That's the only question.
MicroStrategy buys
MicroStrategy. The Tom Lee's company.
Yes, because the answer is they're almost done buying Ethereum. They have like 4.6 or 4.7% of the world's supply of Ethereum. When they get to 5%, they're never going to buy another Ethereum again. Now, if they have to adjust up or down as time goes by because the supply changes, those will be fractional minor changes. In the meantime, they get to stake all of this Ethereum and just make money. So this is their business model. And then obviously the flip side, the big money is, does Ethereum run from here? Does it go from, he just bought all this Ethereum at the maybe $1,500 or $1,600 mark. Ethereum could easily double or triple or quadruple from that in the next 2 years. And then he's in good shape. Then it will have worked out. This is exactly how he wanted to buy his 6 million Ethereum. So you be careful. This is one of those he who laughs last situations. If this goes the way I think it's going to go, he's going to make billions and billions of dollars.
It's funny that here's what's funny about you, Tom, is my boy, what's his name? He wears the hat. He talks very funny. Stockmo was a big ETH guy. He's not an ETH guy anymore. He's an XRP guy, and now you're becoming an ETH guy.
I want to be clear. I'm not. I don't have. My conviction is in Bitcoin. My conviction, to a lesser extent, is in XRP. Those are the two things I've been compiling. You started on XRP before I did. But those are the two things that I've been compiling. Bitcoin much more so than XRP. I am buying on 2x leverage, essentially, both Ethereum and Solana. That's the extent of my crypto world. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, not necessarily in that order. And I don't think Ethereum is going to take over. I don't think Ethereum's market cap is going to pass Bitcoin's market cap. I'm worried about all these massive changes they keep making to it. I feel like, unlike Bitcoin, there are a very small group of people, if not one, that has control over what the future of Ethereum is. So I do have concerns about it, but I don't think it's going to fail, right? It's the second biggest cryptocurrency, and it has been for a long time. And I think it will make its run. You know, if we go to the Ethereum chart, get back there, we were right there. If I go to the 1 week, I mean, look, this is testing multi-year lows. This is June of 2026. This is April of 2025. This is October of 2023. That's 2.5 years ago. This is a pretty solid bottom. Do we really think it's going lower than this? Maybe. But I like a triple bottom over 3 years holding. Now, could go lower. I mean, in the 2022 bear market, this got down to what? $879. Could cut in half from here. Who knows? I don't think so. The bottoms in current bear markets don't usually take out the bottoms of previous bear markets. That would mean the 4-year cycle that everyone's talking about is definitely broken. So to me, this makes sense that we're at or near the bottom. I think this is a good time to buy. And on the flip side, on the flip side of that, if you look at Ethereum over time, in November of 2021, it got to just under 5,000. It took that out in August of 2025. But here at 4,000, it's gotten there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. One of them on the way down. So really 5 times. I mean, is it going to get back to 4,000? I would be stunned if at some point in the next 1 or 2 years, this didn't get back to $4,000. So I will exit this. This is not like Bitcoin for me. I hope to take a run up and get out and say, thanks for playing. And, you know, if it works out that way, then this will be a winning trade. If it doesn't, then it won't be. That's my thoughts on Ethereum.
Well, I mean, at least you already have an out plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have no confidence in a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year Ethereum story. Mainly because I don't know what the rest of the story is. The book's not done. There's, I think, 3 or 4 more substantial fundamental changes they're going to make to Ethereum. So that's the plan anyway. So I don't know what the impact of those are going to be. We'll see.
Jack, What's your thoughts on BTBT as another play on Ethereum HBC?
My thoughts on BTBT, I mean, this was a one-time Bitcoiner. If you remember, that this was a rocky road as a Bitcoin miner. They were in China and other parts. Nobody ever really was able to verify the amount of exahash that they had. There was a short report put out that they're just frauds. Now, that's not me saying that. I can neither confirm nor deny that. But there was a short report. They weren't shy. They literally said these people are frauds. They are on the run from the law. Their exahash isn't real. Now, they made a huge recovery after that, but they never got back to the exahash that they claimed that they had. So that does make me wonder. Now, all that's ancient history because this company has nothing to do with Bitcoin at all anymore. They are a pure play treasury company for Ethereum. But the problem is and it's not necessarily a problem, where Bitmine has over 5 million Ethereum, BitDigital has, less than 200,000 Ethereum. So the scale is tiny compared to what Bitmine is doing. So if I'm going to invest in a company that does this, I'm going to take what I believe is best of breed. But I don't know. There could be upside to Ethereum, to BitDigital. But they're just a tiny they're doing the same thing, just at a tiny fraction of what Bitmine is doing. So for that reason, I would rather be in. All right. And sorry, I missed a couple of comments here. Old Jock, member for 40 months. Thank you very much, sir. Said, what are your thoughts on... Oh, that's what you just read. What are your thoughts on BT, and other Ethereum? Okay, seems underpriced. So I'll be honest, I have not done a price evaluation on it. It's still on my watch list, but I, at one point, looked at the two of them and felt like Bitmine was the better play. I don't know that that's true anymore. BitDigital could be at a good price point, and they're doing the same thing. They're going to make money, and if Ethereum goes up, they're going to win. They have the identical formula. It's just not to the same scale. So I guess to some regard, if you like one, I guess I would ask what is their MNAV, because Bitmine is trading at less than 1. So that's a number that I would want to see. That's really the only number I would want to see. Tom, what do you see as the floor for Keel? That is from Ricky, member for 38 months. Thank you very much, Ricky, as well, for being a member and a long time part of the channel. So I'll go to the Keel's chart. I am bullish on Keel right now. So floor, I mean, I see a lot of support just under $4. This stock hit $6.60 back in 2025. It missed it right here. I think this is a fake out. I think we're going to take this out and go to points higher. And the more important thing, and I'll draw the line right now, if they can stay over $5, and you can see on a daily candle close, they're doing that. If they can do that for a couple of months, big institutional money will start buying this stock. So I had a $1.75 to $5 thesis, and then I had a $5 to $10 thesis. I think they could still play out the second half of that. I will also say, if they do, I will sell at least half of my Keel if they hit $10. And that doesn't mean they won't go up from there. It's just I'm up already almost 400% on this. I've taken my first round of profits on this, and by the time this thing's at $10, at some point you're just greedy and I feel like I will have crossed that threshold. I like Ben. I think he's going to do a good job there. I think they're going to succeed, but they haven't, they don't have their deals yet. So if they can stay over $5, and let's say, for instance, that all the rumors are true, it's all Keel people are talking about, they're going to get 1 or 2 deals imminently. If they get, let's say, 1 or 2 deals in the next 1 or 2 months, they could hit $10 in the next couple of months. So I'm very positive on this stock, but, we'll see. Right? They had a nice reset. This was all the way at 80, almost 83 on the daily RSI. You can see this shaded area. This spent a significant amount of time overbought. So the market was looking for an excuse to sell this off. And when they raised some capital, boom, they did it. But guess what? It came right back. So I like everything about this chart. I like this company. I like Ben. This has had a nice reset on the daily RSI. I think you're looking at, this got down to 56 a couple of times. And when you're in a bullish phase, getting down to neutral can be strong support. So, I don't think this has to run down to oversold to reset to take the next leg up. It can, like here, it bounced off a neutral, right? This little pullback here got it to neutral on the daily RSI, and it took this massive leg up. And I think it could do that again. So I like this stock. I think it's important that it holds $5 for the reasons we talked about. I think there's some stronger support just under $4. But, let's see what Bitcoin does, and let's see if they get the deals that they talk about. So that's my best guess.
Here's a little thing I would suggest, Tom. Just a bit of advice. Take it for what it's worth.
Yes.
Let 10% of it run and see what happens.
Just leave 10% in forever and see where it goes.
You've from what I've known in talking to you about things, do you know how much that would have helped you if you would have done that with so many stocks?
Oh, yeah, I know. You're right.
I know.
I have. Sometimes I'm too structural about my exit strategy. And you're right, George. If I had just left 10% of some of the stocks that I got my run out of, only I didn't realize that was 5% of the run.
Right.
So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, that would be, because there's a good likelihood that Keel could just go nuts.
Right. If they can make this happen, the companies that win in this space, there is so much room to the upside, in my opinion. And let's take a look at what these stocks did this week, because, I've been trying to watch other YouTube channels and see what people are thinking on all this and get a sense of what's going on. Sometimes I'll take months off from that because I'm doing my own stuff. And sometimes I think it's important that I catch up on what is all this noise out there, and I stay in the loop. And I did come across somebody who made a video and said their number one play right now is to short IREN. And I was stunned at that statement. And it's somebody that I think is a high quality YouTuber. And obviously, you get some stuff right, you get some stuff wrong. Nobody's perfect, but that take, I don't know. It made no sense to me at all. I think IREN is in the middle of running, and I think 75 is the next inevitable level. Nothing's guaranteed, obviously, but to me, 75 looks like a no-brainer. And, it was up 5% today. I think it was up 10% yesterday. I don't see that one being one I would want to short right now. That, to me, that seems like very dangerous business. I just want to go through what these companies did this week. Let's get through some of the charts so we don't forget. And I apologize if my voice is a little weird. I'm on antibiotics. I'm getting rid of my sinus infection, but I probably sound a little bit off. All right. The big winner this week. First of all, other than Hive down 1%, ABTC at 0%, we were green this week. Last week was rough. The beginning of June was brutal. May was phenomenal. Best month of the year. June started off rough, but look at the Marathon's up 14%. The Marathon that we all sit there and say, Marathon never does anything. And I'm one of those people. It's one of my big positions, and I'm frustrated with it. It feels like it never does anything. But when you look at what it's actually done this year, it's moving along. It's way under where I expect it to be. So I get it. Like, I am in no way satisfied with where Marathon is at, and they need to make some moves. I saw somebody mention that in the comments just a little while ago. Yeah, Marathon needs to make some more moves. They need to make some noise and let us know that they're executing. IREN up 10% this week. CIFR 9%. Keel, formerly known as Bitfarms, up 9%. TeraWolf up 9%. Riot up 8%. I mean, these are strong moves. Core Scientific 7. When Bitcoin, this is a week that Bitcoin's up 3%. Now understand, a lot of these no longer trade along with Bitcoin or as a multiple of Bitcoin or as a leveraged play on Bitcoin. Some of these companies are disassociating themselves from Bitcoin altogether. And while they may still be doing some mining right now, they've already announced plans that they intend to end their mining of Bitcoin and that's not their business anymore. For instance, the Keel that we were just talking about, they're out of this business. The ones that I think are out of the business or will be by the next halving, I don't think CIFR will be mining Bitcoin by the next halving. Keel has already said with absolute certainty they will not be mining Bitcoin by the next halving. I don't think TeraWolf will be mining Bitcoin by the next halving. Core Scientific hasn't bought a new machine in 5 or 6 years. I don't think they'll be mining Bitcoin by the next halving. HUT already doesn't mine Bitcoin now. They are the largest shareholder in ABTC, which is a pure play Bitcoin miner. So they're still Bitcoin mining adjacent. Cleanspark, I think, will mine Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is not even a Bitcoin miner, never was. This is a treasury company. BitDeer, they seem to be all in on Bitcoin mining. So I think BitDeer will still mine. I think their plans right now, and we'll see what happens with Bitcoin and the like. But I think BitDeer, Cleanspark, possibly Riot, and Marathon still have on the table being Bitcoin miners after the next halving. But it depends how successful they are at, getting data center business, high compute data center business. It depends on what Bitcoin does, right? Bitcoin's got to have a huge run up for any of the math to work on Bitcoin by the next halving. If Bitcoin's at $80,000 or $100,000 at the next halving, then the Bitcoin economics have failed for Bitcoin miners. And I will tell you, on that note, there's something worth looking at. We're in another, I don't want to say unprecedented period, but unusual period. The Bitcoin mining difficulty level is 138.96 trillion. Doesn't matter. Trillion what? That doesn't matter. The point is, if I look at a 1 year, we were at 136 in September of 2025. We were at 129 back in August of 2025. Right now, we're at 138. We're almost to the next adjustment. Right? We're 95% of the way to the next adjustment. It's going to be a monster. 10% to the downside. Now, that could change. It might end up being 9 or 8%, but we're 95% of the way through. This is not going to break even. This is going to be some massive move to the downside. If this holds, you're talking about going back to other than this anomaly, I mean, I'm in June of 2025. You're talking about going back to May of 2025. That's 13 or 14 months ago. So the Bitcoin difficulty level will be flat for more than a year. Another sign to me that we're at the end of the crypto winter, and it was really more of a crypto bear well, it was more of a Bitcoin bear market, but I think it's fair to say it was a crypto winter for the majority of altcoins. And Sourmelon Gaming is saying Bitcoin mining was a failed business and no one can convince me otherwise. These companies lost billions of investors' dollars. Go AI. I mean, until somebody proves that wrong, that's pretty much what happened. A lot of these companies did get to cash flow positive. Some of these companies were actually making money, but when Bitcoin topped out at 126,000, if that was the end of the bull market and we're not going to get to points beyond that, I mean, the economics dictate, I think Bitcoin's got to be at 225,000 by the next halving, or else it's not going to be worth Bitcoin mining. And I think all these companies will do everything they can to switch all of their power to AI. That's my personal opinion. Because remember, we're more than halfway to the next halving. We're less than 2 years away from the reward being cut in half again. You're going to get roughly 1.5 Bitcoin to solve a block. Bitcoin better be pretty expensive by then, or else it's not going to be worth it. And or, if this difficulty level just continues to plummet, that will help the Bitcoin economics. It's been downward for quite some time now. It peaked in November of 2025. It's been going down ever since. And, so if that goes down if we're now in a multi-year phase of that going down, that's the only way these companies can hope to be cash flow positive, never mind make money. And Olim is saying, Tom, can you look at Hive? So Hive, let's go to the Hive's chart.
Yeah, talk to me about Hive.
Talk about Hive. Ooh.
Tell me some good stuff before I leave, Tom.
To me, Hive got in the game.
They're in the game, guys.
They are in the game. They had a big announcement back when they made this run. I think it was 325 megawatts or 340 megawatts. Hive was the first company to start talking about high-performance computing in data centers, but by the same token, while they've been talking about it by far longer than anybody else, they've done very little to actually do anything about it. They are the smallest scale AI company out of all the companies that we look at. So, when they announced a 340 megawatt deal, that was many, many magnitudes more than the entire amount of megawatts that they currently had allocated to AI, to high performance computing. So they went from not really lots of talk more than anybody, but not really being in the game at all, to jumping in the game. So their stock, I think, has a long way to go because they were being priced as a Bitcoin miner, because the reality was, for as much as they talked about high performance computing, the amount they were doing was so minuscule, it really didn't have a financial impact. So that was, this went under $2 in April. It's under $4 right now. It got up to $5 on June 1st. So May was the big run up, and you can see a gap up in the middle and then a run from there. So, it's spent a lot of time overbought. All this green here is overbought, but it reset all the way to neutral. So I could easily see this running back up to, I think it's going to have to prove, this 459, that's not even a great line. I could get rid of it. I think really that's the real line, and I'll probably switch it to that. If it can get back over $5, I think it can have a breakout and keep running from there, because its market cap is still very low, but they need to keep commitment to the high performance computing portion of the program. They dramatically increased their Bitcoin mining over an 18-month period. They were even losing on both fronts. They had like 5 exahash of Bitcoin mining, and really, for all intents and purposes, no high performance computing. They ran that 5 exahash up to 25 exahash. That was a big deal when Bitcoin mining mattered, but now saying you're a Bitcoin mining company actually hurts your stock for the time being. That will change, I believe. Right? I don't think Bitcoin's dead. I don't think that story's over. There's going to be another time where that's going to matter, but not right now. Right now, it's all about AI. All of the market cap of these companies, other than the companies that there's only 3 of them that are physically hodling large amounts of Bitcoin, right? That's getting priced in as value. Other than that, the Bitcoin mining operations, I think, are being priced near zero value. The high performance computing potential is the market cap of all these stocks, in my opinion. So they got to lean into this and keep doing what they just started doing. And that's going to decide which way they go, in my opinion.
I got to sneak out.
All right, George, thank you. Yeah, it's that guys. Time. Have a great weekend.
Let's see how many before I leave.
What's the count?
It's real close. 92.
Ah, all right.
Dude, it's more than I thought. You can get 8. We're get 8.
Smash the like button.
See you guys.
Thanks, George. Have a good weekend.
See you. Thanks, Tom. See you. Bye.
All right, let's see if I can get through a few more things. CIFR hit an all-time high, so let's just look at that. Yeah, CIFR was up over 8% today, and you can see this was its all-time high back in November of 2025 at $25.52. On June 3rd, this got up to $28.62. So new all-time high just a week ago. And this is in really good shape. This is another one that could have a breakout. I think a lot of these stocks charts are looking so much better than they were 10 days ago. These were big resets. If you look across the board, Marathon was at 70. It got rejected from there. Riot, right? This was multiple times overbought. Cleanspark, a big period of time overbought. But look at what they've all done. They've all, that's retested neutral. IREN actually dipped below neutral for a little bit and now is on the mend. So to me, that's moving in the right direction. This is moving in the right direction on almost every single one of these stocks, right? This is at or near its all-time high, but yet these technicals leave a lot of room to the upside for this to keep running. I have some confidence. This SpaceX thing, today was a funny day. At 11:24, that must have been the time that people could buy SpaceX, because if I go here, I'll go there. I don't want to go to the 1 minute. What? This is Tuesday. Where's... Give me 1 second. I'm going to get this chart because here's the cliff. 1124. Right here. Every single stock I own at exactly 1124 did this. I own 32 stocks across pretty much every sector in the market. Every single one of them to the minute peaked at 1124 today. So I am guessing that is when retail investors got access to buying SpaceX. It sucked all the oxygen out of the room. But here's the thing. Conversationally, it's been doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks. But all they were raising is $75 billion. And I say all they were raising. That's the biggest IPO in the history of time by a lot. We're about to have the second biggest and the third biggest over the next couple of months in Anthropic and OpenAI. I think they both want to raise $60 billion. SpaceX did finish the day with a market cap of over $2 trillion. It's like the seventh biggest company in the world on day one. So, we haven't seen this before. And we got two more. They're not going to be like that, but they'll likely be trillion-dollar stocks by the end of IPO day. But the thing is, the actual amount of liquidity required was only $75 billion. Google just got through raising $80 billion, and nobody said anything about it. They just quietly did that. And the reason is because when you're a $4 trillion company, raising $80 billion isn't I don't want to say it's not a big deal, but it's 3 or 4% stock dilution. Now, that's a company that's usually a cash-generating machine. So the fact that they are now raising money through equity is pretty wild. So, that's something to watch. Are we getting, is the money going to run out for spending in this AI arena? I think not. I think we're many years away from that, but it's just worth noting. Gambit Beer said, "Hail Overlord Elon Musk." I mean, he's got two. I think he's got this. SpaceX is either the 6th or 7th largest, biggest company in the world, and Tesla's the 10th. So he has 2 of the top 10 largest companies in the world. And by the way, just so that you know, here. Elon Musk becomes the world's first trillionaire as SpaceX begins trading on the NASDAQ. Trillionaire. So I'm old enough that that's a shocking number to me. Right? I remember when there were everybody was in a race. $100 billion was like a huge deal. And there were 3 or 4 people vying for who's going to be the first to $100 billion. So from the beginning of time to $100 billion, and then from $100 billion to $1 trillion, which is a 10x, was very little time. Now, to be fair, nobody's in second place on this list. It's crazy. And if you just search YouTube, you'll find it. There's a great interview going around right now with Elon Musk from 2007. And if you think all this stuff was luck or an accident, I would watch that interview because he had a plan. He spelled it out note for note, and then he executed it. So, congratulations to him. And then His Honor said, "Tom, you promised to talk about SCMI and its crash. What say you?" I will talk about that right now because it's also what ties into another conversation. So, I'm going to start with this. Super Micro said it wants to raise $7 billion to meet AI demand. The stock is tumbling. Okay, so I'm going to go to the chart. We'll just do this for simplicity's sake. This is the simple chart. This stock's at $30 right now. Before this news, this was at $45. This stock tanked. It got crushed. But understand, this is an $18 billion market cap company. So it was substantially more than that. It was more like a $25 billion market cap company. And they want to raise $7 billion. So I just got through saying this is usually a golden opportunity. When the market tanks a stock that wants to do this, it's usually free money. But this is where you got to take one step further. And I'm going to walk through that step right now. And this is why I did not buy any SMCI. I did not buy any options. I did nothing on this. And it hasn't really recovered. I'm going to go over here and look at it on a real chart. I think I have this up. I know I do. So here, on that day, from the high of June 9th to the low of June 10th, that was a 35% move to the downside. So they're raising $7 billion and their stock tanks 35%. Ordinarily, I would say opportunity of a lifetime. These guys did something that is highly atypical. The market didn't like it. I didn't like it. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do this to this scale. So here's a headline from the Motley Fool. Super Micro has $39 billion in AI server orders, yet the shares fell on the news. Time to buy the stock? ? Here's the problem. Server maker Supermicron shared the kind of update on Tuesday evening that growth investors usually celebrate. The company has received approximately $39 billion in orders for its advanced artificial intelligence servers from more than 20 customers in recent weeks. To put it in perspective, that's $39 billion of order in recent weeks. Their revenue for the year last year was $20 billion. So in the last 2 weeks, they've gotten double last year's revenue in orders. So that sounds unbelievably good. But the news came with a catch. To buy the components needed to build these servers, Supermicro plans to raise $7 billion by selling a combination of common stock and convertible preferred shares. Investors focused on the bill rather than the orders, sending shares down 28% on Wednesday. In total, shares are now down 37% over the last 5 trading days. What's unusual about this? They are diluting the company. $7 billion on a $25 billion company. Raising $7 billion is astronomical. But it's worse than that. This is not to build out infrastructure, to have assets to generate future revenue stream on a going forward basis. This is literally to buy parts to sell specific orders. This is what's called a one-off. So, diluting as a shareholder, I don't want to be diluted 25%. So you can buy and make your inventory so that you can sell it. Right? These other companies, these other stock dilutions we talked about, they're building data centers. That's like an annuity. You're going to get revenue on that going forward for as long as there's high performance computing, you're going to get revenue on that data center. This is just, I don't have any money. Like, I got some orders, but I can't fill them because I got no product and no money. So let me borrow some money. Oh, I can't borrow it. So I don't have any money. No one will lend me any money. Let me sell equity so I can buy parts to sell servers. That's a very bad formula. That is not what you dilute companies for. What's worse than that is if they have $39 billion in orders, why do they need $7 billion in cash? If you remember back in 2021, when the Bitcoin mining manufacturers were in demand and they were getting massive orders, they were requiring anywhere from a 50 to a 100% deposit, and the delivery time was often between 12 and 18 months into the future. So on these $39 billion of orders, if these were real orders, and it turns out if you dig more deeply, they are not signed orders with deposits. There's a lot of letters of intent. This should have generated the cash flow on its own to buy the parts to build these. So now you've even got a downside of, oh no, what if they what if they dilute the company by $7 billion, build a bunch of servers, and then they can't sell them? Or they have to sell them at a discount because these sales weren't what they thought they were. This to me, where it's, the top line, this starts out by saying Supermicro has $39 billion in AI server orders. That sounds like the best news ever for a company whose annual revenue is $20 billion. This is off the charts. But sometimes if it sounds too good to be true, it might be too good to be true. So I don't know. Maybe they do have $39 billion in orders. Maybe they will fill every one of these orders. Maybe these orders are at high gross profit margins and they're going to make a lot of money on all that. But what an investor is left with, if, I hope, the one thing I know for sure is they're diluting me by $7 billion. So that's a formula that I'm not willing to get in the middle of. And obviously, the market felt the same way because this stock crashed. And unlike the other ones that we looked at, if I go back here, there's no recovery here, right? Down 35%, up 5%. So I didn't touch this one, and I'm not touching it still. This company had some massive bad news about management not too long ago. And, so there was already some question in people's mind, but the reality is they make AI servers and demand is high. So, it recovered from that and it was on a roll. But something doesn't quite add up. And it may all be exactly what they said. Maybe they just had bad terms. Maybe they didn't ask for big enough deposits. I don't know what they didn't do right, but this is not how this usually works. So something doesn't add up, in my opinion. So that's my SMCI, and this is a stock that George bought in the 10K challenge down here because on this day there was bad news announced, and it was my feeling. So we did buy it down here. That was down again 35% in one day, and that time it made no sense to me. And from there, it ran up 151% in a couple of months. But this pullback makes a lot less sense. Now, maybe it'll do the same thing. Maybe this is another gigantic buying opportunity. But I'm staying away from it for the reasons I talked about. I'm just going to show you guys Adobe, because that is a stock I bought more of today. It's a stock I already owned. This stock is trading at $204 right now. If I pull up the 5-year, you'll see that's the lowest number on the 5-year. I'm going to go to the real chart now. This is not it. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to go to the 1 week. So look at this drop off. So they announced earnings on the 11th after the bell. So before the bell, this was already down 5% on the day before they announced earnings. So like I said, sometimes it's a sell the news situation. There's a big run up. So even though the earnings are great, it's a sell off. But this is the opposite. This stock's in the middle of tanking, right? This stock just did this, including the day of earnings. Then they announce earnings after hours. It gaps down. Another almost 7%. By the bottom, it was down another 10%. Now, I bought in after hours, and I don't usually do this, but this got down to $205 in after hours. So I bought. Now, it actually got down to $196.90 in the middle of trading today. So if I had been a little more patient, I could have bought even more. But at this point, we get rid of this. If I go to, I'm going to go to the 1 month because we're really going to look. This right here. That's January of 2018. 8.5 years ago. Adobe right now is trading at an 8.5-year low. Wow, business must be bad. Here's Adobe's earnings report. Adobe reports record Q2 results. Adobe raises fiscal year 2026 total revenue and non-GAAP earnings per share targets. They beat on the top line, they beat on revenue, they beat on income, and they raised their targets for the rest of the year. I don't know what else you can do. Those are the 3 things you can do that are great. AI first. Annual run rate triples year over year and exceeds $500 million. So the story on this stock is AI is going to kill Adobe. Well, their annual run rate for their AI product tripled year over year. It's a growing part of their business. They did $6.62 billion. That's the most revenue they've ever done in a quarter in the entire history of the company. And their stock is at an 8-year low. This story, again, I owned this stock before all this happened. So I dollar cost averaged in a healthier than usual amount on this. So I don't understand this. This is one of those. Thank you, Gambit Beer. It looks like we got over 100 likes. All right. This is one of those stories where I think you'll have to wait for it because the world is going to keep saying SaaS apocalypse, software is dead. All software is now worth nothing because AI is just going to do what it does. And there are a few stocks that I'm up 20, 30% on already in software because the market's abandoned that because the case is too strong. Those companies are so deep into AI that it's obvious now they're actually going to be better, more profitable companies with AI. I'm not even arguing that with Adobe. What I'm arguing is this is now priced like it's the end of the world. This is at an 8-year low. It's at a record high income and profit, but it's at an 8-year low. This is a cash generating machine. Their gross profit is over 90%. I don't know. I'm sure you guys could do a deep dive and find something wrong with this company, but I don't know what it is. It's AI is going to ruin it. That's what's wrong with it. AI is going to ruin it. So if you think AI is going to ruin this company, then don't buy it. And again, I'm not recommending that you buy it, but I would say I do think it's worth taking a look at. Because to me, this is a tried and true, proven, super high quality company. They have a 90+% gross profit margin. This is the best year they've ever had in the history of their company, and they're projecting that next year is going to be better. Those things don't usually add up to an 8-year low on the stock. That's what's happening with this stock right now. I'm pointing it out. That's it. Do with that what you will. All right, I hung in as long as I could with my sinus infection. I will be hopefully better by next Friday's stream. And for members, I will see you on Tuesday. And I'll be done with my antibiotics on Tuesday. So hopefully I'll be in better shape. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I hope you guys had a good week because, again, I'm going to leave on this chart. It was a really good week for these Bitcoin mining data center companies. It was green across the board. So hopefully your portfolio had a good week. Hopefully you guys had a good week. I hope you guys enjoy the weekend. Thank you so much. Special thanks to all the members. Thanks for smashing the like button. If you haven't done so and you're willing to, you can smash it on the way out. And have a great weekend. And we will see you next week. For the members, I'll see you Tuesday after the market closes.